everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod. You caught me pouring my first glass with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. Cheers. Welcome back. We missed you guys. Hello. Cheers.
Oh, I missed everybody. I missed you. We didn't even have our normal
We did
20
not.
times
It
a
was
day communication.
crazy. We barely talked. I mean, the last 3 days we've talked nonstop, but yeah, for like what, 7 days. That was crazy.
I don't even know you anymore.
I know. And we haven't really even talked about it. Just crazy. How was your Thanksgiving, Pat?
Good, uneventful, really. Can't
Yeah.
complain. Not much going on in my world over here. Today for Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
Pablo brought me a mouse, so that's exciting.
Oh, dead or alive?
Dead and half eaten. So he took his bite first and left me the rest.
Pass, and you take last.
Yeah. I know you had a lengthy vacation. I would love to hear about it.
Thank you, but we can go back to Pablo's gift to you if you'd like for a moment. Was
No.
it in your house, in your
No.
apartment that he brought it into, or
right on the porch?
And so, do you just scoop it up and put it down in a dumpster?
Yeah, I just bag it up and I just throw it in the trash in here. And, you would take it immediately to the dumpster, wouldn't you?
You put it in your own garbage?
But in a bag that's closed. I mean,
Pat, I have
on.
such a weird phobia. And here's the crazy thing. It's not like I'm a vegan or a vegetarian. So like, it's so hypocritical. Like there's, bones of turkey in my garbage, right? So like, what's the big difference? But I don't know. I can't do it. It's so terrible. I'm such a baby about it. And I'm not like that with roaches or snakes or anything else except for rodents.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't, there's not a lot that grosses me out, to be honest. I don't know. I tolerance for
it. Bodily fluids. I could never be a nurse.
Yeah, you got a point there. Other people's bodily fluids is a little bit for me.
It's funny too. I mean, this is so interesting, fascinating. Here we go. But my when my kids were little, like I had no problem with any of it. All those like dads changing diapers and they're like retching, dry heaving as they do it. Like, I mean, it's not the best, but like whatever. I could deal with all of that. Like I'm puke, blood, whatever, when it was my own kids. Now that they're like over 18, I don't need any of that from them either. Like it's kind of just like take it away, go deal with it.
It's probably some genetic imprinting thing, where your kid's not going to survive if you're going to be too grossed out by cleaning them up and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. Anyway, rodents. I can't do rodents. I can do anything else, even cockroaches. Like I'm fine. Really good trip. Got to see my mom, my mother-in-law, my brother, his wife, his kids. We had so much fun. My kids, who I hadn't seen for several weeks, came. So we all got to hang out, eat a ton, drink a ton. It was really nice. We had a really cozy, fun, whatever it was, 7 days. I will say it is just shocking to me. Apart from the 4 of us in my family, I think I saw 4 masks in all of the airports and planes that we were on. And 2 of them were surgical.
Yeah. I mean, look, obviously hospitals, it's kind of ridiculous to me, but you can understand people they were used to going to hospitals and not masking, kind of like, the normal kind of thing.
Yeah.
But airplanes always had a reputation as a place to get sick.
Yeah.
And
totally.
so for everybody to know how rampant COVID is and how easy it is to get sick in this closed environment and just go, nah, we're just too cool to mask. It's people are simps. They are just simple-minded, crowd following sheep.
They truly are just sheep. They really are. I do think that most people are not aware of how persistent COVID is. I just really think they bought the propaganda. It's done. It's over. We've moved on. We have a bit of COVID, to talk about today, but it's definitely not over. And but it is actually crazy to see all of those people with just taking their chances. And then I kind of am just wondering, like, why Like, how are they just living their lives? I guess it's just a matter of time. It's like Russian roulette, right? Like at some point it's going to get all of us probably. I don't even know.
Well, it is. And I mean, probably a big portion of those people are already kind of doomed from having had it 4 or 5 times, and the consequences are coming. I mean, it's not going to be necessarily instant death or a heart attack or something like that, but like there are health consequences to this disease eating you alive as we, progress without you. It's not the visual stuff. It's not that you can sleep at night. It's like,
right. Yeah, it's really a failure of public health, and it's bipartisan. And I wonder what's going to happen with Trump coming back into office, if all of a sudden people are going to care, or if it's done. And we showed research, God, from probably the first year of COVID. I just bit my tongue, where there was research that showed that it actually attacked the part of our brains that's able to discern danger and to kind of
it creates
buffer that, like, and make it less
it makes you more risk averse
proponent,
like,
less risk
the
averse.
opposite of risk averse.
less risk averse, proponent of risk,
right? So it is almost like some alien fucking gene dropped on us, some kind of thing,
changing all of our brain stuff. But
the good news is there are several more pandemics around the corner. Cheers. Good night, everyone.
Have you ever seen red wine come through my nose? Yes. Okay. We speaking of cheers, let's thank all of our wonderful pup members, our heroes and sheroes. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We love and adore you and are so excited to be back with all of you. And thank you for your support. And as a reminder, please like, share, subscribe, smash that notification bell, write comments, share, whatever you can do. It'd be great. We got a notification, 2 nights ago, saying that we all of a sudden just got 2 copyright strikes with no warning, hey, go ahead, if you could just take this out. And if you get 3, you're just off, you're done with YouTube. They take you away.
Yeah, these are the real ones that are not the like, hey, take down the little cat video with the music that
or cut out the music
cost you all this
part.
money.
Yeah, exactly. So we have written to the 2 different places whose clips we had used, not realizing that, I mean, obviously we know other people have made these videos, but almost all of our episodes end up being demonetized anyway because of the subject matter or whatever. So just didn't think it was that big a deal, and we can always just cut it out. And these strikes were hardcore strikes. So we're having to change we're possibly having to change our timeline cleanses and our puppets and that kind of stuff, just so we don't get in trouble with the.
So we're trying to think of how to revamp it to avoid some of this problem. I mean, one of the strikes we got was for the stupid AI video we showed.
That is
like to get a strike
right
for
there.
showing something that's based on theft.
Yeah,
AI
exactly.
is full on theft of artists and
people's images and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, crazy. But anyway, so we'll see what happens. We have set up a channel on Rumble, but we haven't fully explored it. But our last, I think, 3 shows have broadcast there also. But we're gonna put we have a long meeting tomorrow where we are gonna really just a meeting in the front office to figure out all of our stuff.
We're day drinking. Sorry, that's what we're doing. We're just day drinking.
we're gonna day drink and try to get through some of our logistics. Yeah.
But really, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna put up a web page, I think, and regardless of where it airs, you can go to that website to watch the show directly there.
Buy all of our merch. Feed,
or link. So in case YouTube kicks us out, in case Rumble kicks us out, whatever happens, we'll still be day drinking.
Day drinking or bust. Okay.
And by the way, I'd like to mention my beer. It's I shared it on Twitter the other day, but Jingle Juice, bought some more Jingle Juice. It's a delicious, it's winter stout season, and I am rocking the Santa beard for couple more days. I can't stand it already, but
I like it a lot. And I saw someone else also, Lynn, say, "Nice beard, Grizzly Pat." I like it. I like it.
this is what depression looks like right here, guys.
Oh, well,
Not really.
I know. Let's bring some cheers. We have a situation in South Korea where the president called for martial law, supported, of course, by the U.S. I mean, he's supported by the U.S. Biden says he didn't realize that the president was going to call for martial law, which doesn't mean that the U.S. wasn't alerted to it. But Biden, I think, doesn't have his finger on the pulse of much anymore.
They probably told him in the morning, and he's just
yeah.
I don't know.
But the head of the union got everybody together and said, "We're doing a general strike, and you're not going to allow this martial law, and we need all of the members of their parliament, government, to be allowed in to vote against the martial law." And the power of a general strike really change things. So this is a little explainer on it because I'm clearly out of practice and could barely string a sentence together. This was a little segment on it on Democracy Now! Yesterday.
The martial law was called at 10:30 p.m. And basically between 11 and 12, thousands of people had gathered in front of the National Assembly. I myself was not there, but I was in constant communication with people, and I was just doing a lot of the writing, a lot of the social media to just be able to provide support in the social media and to let people know what was happening. And I think what's extraordinary is that a lot of ordinary people came out. I think I've heard that people were saying that there were delivery people that just stopped working. And when they heard the news, they just like rushed to the National Assembly. There were people that were at home just relaxing, and then they rushed. And a lot of the people, when they gathered, they were able to block and prevent the armored trucks from entering the grounds of the National Assembly. They were able, a lot of them were chanting to abolish the martial law and to, basically abolish martial law and to down with the dictatorship. And a lot of this was happening while the voting, while the deliberation was happening inside the National Assembly. And so, yeah, in many regards, I think the National Assembly members, the 190 that showed up, were the ones that revoked the martial law. But of course, it was a lot of the energy and a lot of the effort and a lot of the presence of people that had rushed to the National Assembly that really made a huge difference in turning this thing around.
That's what we call the inside-outside strategy. And not only that, now the Korean Federation of Trade Unions will begin an indefinite general strike tomorrow, which I think is today, demanding the immediate resignation of President Yoon. So that's huge. That's general strike energy and everybody just withholding labor. And the vote was, I think, 168 or however many members of their parliament there are to 0 against martial law. So that's how effective it was. You withhold your labor, general strike, nobody works, everybody out towards, and it's over.
And a lot of the leadership there was his own party. So his own party voted against his what you call it? I forgot.
Martial law.
Against martial law.
His decree.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, part of the reason that the U.S. supports him and his, sort of fascistic regime is because he's really tried to crack down on unions, because unions give workers better wages, which can make the products more expensive, especially if the CEOs always have to make, exponentially more than they did the year before. And so he was cracking down on labor unions also, but the power of the workers and the labor movement to stop a fascist from declaring martial law is also why they want to crack down on unions. Like,
Right.
but that's always a US project in every country where we, do our shenanigans. And it was really exciting to see. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
it's
like in a matter of
pushback
6 hours
against his agenda, basically. Like,
Yeah.
you stepped up across the line and they said, you're trying to take our power away from us and you're going to lock us up. Oh, that's enough.
Yeah.
And I really think in the next 4 years, we're going to have something like that here. Not martial law declared or anything like that. Well, it could be. We'll have some big moment like this is happening in the US in the next 4 years. And what we do with it, we need to be ready for it.
That's the thing. And the vote.
Oh, Justin said it was 190, 190.
No, it was to 0. I'll find it, but
he probably meant 0.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
190
out of 190.
Yeah. I am not exactly sure why it's so difficult in this country. I mean, I think partly we're a huge country. Partly we, even though labor unions are becoming more and more popular, but we need more people joining unions. But we don't have the same kind of, I mean, here's the thing. I think the US project, individualism, the wild, wild west, all of that kind of stuff is part of the propaganda and the project of the people in power to keep us all separate, individuals over collective society. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, because they always scream my freedoms and don't join. Yeah. It's like an HOA, or they think unions like an HOA or something.
Right. Right.
But I think with when you couple American exceptionalism, the propaganda we've been pushed to, along with the fact that our healthcare here, unlike most other countries that have these active strikes, are tied to our employment. So it's like it's just layers harder here to take a stand, I think.
Yeah. And in addition to, healthcare, I mean, we just have all of our social safety nets have been ripped from us. So there's very little support. It's astronomically expensive and nobody's making enough money, which I know is also happening in other countries. But anyway, it was powerful to watch that happen so quickly. So cheers to them. A great reminder of the power of labor in the working class.
Hey, man, I thought you were going to say fucking around and finding out, which would lead us into our new segment.
We still got to hash it out. We got to get the whole
we'll get
the wheel. We got stuff going.
Cheers to South Korea and the labor movement and all the strikers and anyone supporting them.
Absolutely.
Should we hash it out?
Pushing a button? Yeah. Or are we spinning the wheel or pushing the button?
Wheel. Let's try.
Oh, okay. What are we doing? All right. So we still have a lot of this stuff here, but we'll see if it really happens. 1 second.
Yeah, baby.
Okay. I will refill my glass and spin again. 1 second.
Yeah, baby.
There you go.
Okay. I'm gonna give it one more shot and then
don't take that.
Yeah, baby.
We can leave it on all night.
Right?
We've been gone too long.
All right, this is a new segment for us. Fuck around and find out.
For every blue-collar Democrat we will lose in Western PA, we will pick up 2, 3 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
We have the opportunity to tell the whole world who we are.
This is going to sound immodest, but I'm obviously a top-tier candidate.
Top 10 Worst Health Insurance Companies in USA 2024. Number 8. United Healthcare of Oklahoma. United Healthcare of Oklahoma has become a prime example of a poor health insurance company in America. notorious for denying valid claims, refusing coverage for pre-existing conditions, and delivering appallingly bad customer service. The company symbolizes the frustrations faced with low-quality, unresponsive insurers. Overwhelmingly negative reviews and customer experiences make it a company to be avoided.
So you could see how he approaches Thompson from the back. Before then, where we freeze the video, he fires those shots at Thompson.
Oh no! Anyway.
Okay.
Is that our third copyright strike? Are we out of here?
Are we out? I don't even know. So woke up this morning to the news that United Health executive was shot dead outside of the Manhattan hotel. Brian Thompson was shot near the Hilton Hotel in Midtown. The suspect was still at large and I think continues to be. Ken Klippenstein right away put out the tweet on the left. Sorry, it was this one. Today, we remember the legacy of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, who that bottom wedge or bar is the percentage of claims denied. So a third of claims that come into United Healthcare are denied by his company. And he's, of course, was a multi-millionaire, but the worst of all of these disgusting companies. And, you know, just as a reminder, one of the things that they did was use AI to go through the claims. And with their algorithm, they have been charged with a 90% error rate to override doctors' recommendations and deny health coverage.
Yeah,
which,
this
you know,
is very much like Israel's AI targeting. You know, it's a good excuse to not have, so you can sleep at night because AI is doing it.
Yeah, like Obama's drones, 90% civilian kill rate. But what was interesting was to see the live responses on Twitter and even just in the public about this, as, you know, Democrats and people in power and, you know, people who are all part of the same class structure were chastising people about their glee. The rest of the country was pretty happy about it, unfortunately. So here we have gritty is the way, fucked around, find out. We have UHC CEO Brian Thompson won't see your jokes about his assassination, but the other health insurance CEOs in your life will. Tabitha Chow saw mainstream news coverage about the killing of the CEO of United Healthcare on TikTok, and I think political and industry leaders might want to read the comments and think hard about them. And it was a lot of like, sorry, I need prior authorization to send you my thoughts and prayers. You know, hope you're looking up at me, up at us, if I only cared about your passing, and felt bad about my first thought. But then I read the other responses and realized everybody was thinking the same. Here is an article in Rolling Stone saying Americans have little sympathy for murdered health insurance executive. And, you know, a reminder that this was in 2017. So this was before the pandemic, when there was, this was a Matt Brunig report that Ryan Cooper is quote tweeting or tweeting that with the ACA, which, you know, they say uninsured deaths, normally we say are at about 68,000 a year, can be blamed on the fact that, I mean, it's not that we don't have insurance, that we don't have universal health care, no Medicare for all, right? 68,000 a year. When COVID first started and we got to, I think, 450,000, I think there was it ProPublica that did a study that a third of COVID deaths could be blamed on the fact that people can't get health care. So I hate saying that they don't have health insurance, because We don't need health insurance, but that has become sort of synonymous, unfortunately, with just being able to access healthcare if you don't have insurance or if you're underinsured. So Medicare for all, which would be if it were done the way most of us would hope, where it's just universal, single payer, eyes, ears, teeth, everything, free at the point of service, would save normally about 68,000 lives a year, but that's before a global pandemic. So even in this chart, that when this was done in 2017, the estimate was that by 2026, there would be 500,000 extra preventable deaths every year. And that was without taking into account a pandemic. So they know it's a death sentence. They know that the whole reason for health insurance is to take your money and provide a barrier between you and your healthcare.
And like all things, the cost of not following the law for these big companies is less punitive and less expensive to the company than just, if they don't follow the law, if they deny coverage fraudulently, even, it's something like a $25,000 fine, where like 2 days in the hospitals now is $25,000. So there's no incentive for these people to change their behavior at all. So this guy that died, I'm not going to cry about him. I'm going to say this is kind of what the revolution is going to have to look like a little bit. And it's going to get, like, when you go down that list of who denies coverage the most, well, what if the second biggest company, their CEO gets taken out next?
Yeah.
What does that do? You
Yeah.
know, that shakes people the fuck up. And
yeah. I mean, that was something that I think we talk about a lot, is that with FDR, like, he didn't come in as some big lefty. He's a capitalist, but he saw what was happening in the country and warned all of his CEO friends, if we don't implement some of this change, some of these broad social programs, they will come after all of us. Yeah. So, politics is a game of fear, as Chris Hedges says. And
I really hope this guy remains anonymous and there's no
safe.
I mean, it would be amazing if this is an unsolved crime forever.
Yeah. Especially, at the same time today, it was announced that Blue Cross Blue Shield in 3 states, I don't know how that works, but will no longer pay for anesthesia for the full length of some surgeries. So
if your root canal goes, and this is a minor thing, but if your root canal goes a little long, well, you ran out of anesthesia. We're just going to finish.
Can I have your credit card? Can I swipe your credit card again?
Right.
In the middle of it. When I was pregnant with Asher and I did a Lamaze class, not realizing, I was so out of it, but not realizing that was supposed to, you do that so that maybe you don't have to get an epidural. And I knew, like, if I could have an epidural right now in my life, I would have one. But, I was at Cedars-Sinai, which is in sort of West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, which is sort of a wealthy area. I mean, we weren't wealthy, we were just like in a little apartment there, but they said, the woman running the Lamaze class said that about 85% of women who came in to deliver babies at Cedars-Sinai got an epidural. She also worked at a hospital in an area that was filled much more with immigrants and a lot of Latino families where a lot of people did not have insurance. 90% of them did not get an epidural because it wasn't covered. I mean, that is disgusting. And that's not even like murdering somebody, but that is unnecessary pain in the 21st century.
Yeah. And look, our healthcare system is one of the worst of the industrialized world. And life expectancy here, somebody tweeted about it. I think it was for a male at his age. I mean, a white male, I think, was 73 for the average life expectancy.
Okay.
And this guy who got killed because he's in the top 1% has 10 more years life expectancy just for being wealthy.
I mean, so, sorry, I'm trying to read some of your comments. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm not going to be able to read all of these now, but thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is violence. It is disgusting. And it is social murder. I mean, that's the thing is like, it's the same thing whenever subjugated people fight back. They're terrorists or savages or beasts or whatever, even though it's the imperialist system that is constantly having its boot on the people's neck and is killing them. Class war is a constant against the working class and the poor. But if you ever mention how, wealthy people are and how we should maybe share some of the profits of our labor, then all of a sudden why are we doing class war, right? So they always turn it against you. The constant is that they are committing social murder against us. That's the constant.
Yeah. So, I mean, the guy was murdered, and it's not like we're advocating people go out and murder people, but let's talk about the result of this. The result of this is now we have an opportunity when this is brought up among our liberal friends to say, do you know that they deny a third of their healthcare claims, the biggest in the country? Is that okay with you? Like 32% are just flat out denied. And, they use AI systems with a 90% error rate to deny these claims. Like this is what we're fighting against. And the whole public has said, we want universal healthcare. Every industrialized nation on earth has it, but us. So what do you think is going to happen? Someone's going to get upset. Someone's husband, wife, child was denied coverage and they have cancer and they know they need this surgery and they died because they didn't get it.
Yeah.
Revenge.
Of course. And it is, and we pulled this quotation and, we've shown it before, but this is Frederick Engels talking about social murder. And yes, I'm putting my readers on because I want to get it. When one individual inflicts bodily injury upon another such that death results, we call the deed manslaughter. When the assailant knew in advance that the injury would be fatal, we call his deed murder. But when society places hundreds of proletarians in such a position that they inevitably meet a too early and an unnatural death, one which is quite as much a death by violence as that by the sword or bullet, when it deprives thousands of the necessaries of life, places them under conditions in which they cannot live, forces them through the strong arm of the law to remain in such conditions until that death ensues, which is the inevitable consequence, knows that these thousands of victims must perish and yet permits these conditions to remain, its deed is murder just as surely as the deed of the single individual. So when Joe Biden says, if they ever passed Medicare for all, I would veto it, that is a violent statement. Knowing that 68,000 people before the pandemic die every year. And that's not even talking about the things that get worse, the pain, all of that that's denied. But deaths, that is violence against.
Yeah, but even that number, I mean, I got to say it's bullshit because it's way higher. I mean, you got to look at all the people homeless for medical bills.
Yep.
Who can't
that's right.
get treatment. They fall off these ledgers, and they do everything they can to not account for the devastation or lack of policy, does.
And that's people. A choice. The reason that Nancy Pelosi has $120 million more than when she entered Congress is both because of her insider trading, but also because the people who grease her palms. The same with pretty much every member of Congress. So that's a choice. That money is worth it to them to let us suffer and die.
Yep. And they're not coming to save us. So, people are taking out, this is, I don't want to say hopefully, so I won't. I didn't say hopefully, but this is the sign of what's coming. There's more of this coming for sure. It's inevitable. And in a way, just like the worker movement is growing because people are seeing the fruits of its labor, this is waking people up. And so, when you, what is it? Give me some country line, like the hit bull hollers or something.
Yeah.
Hit dog hollers. I mean, like,
oh yeah.
Mess with the bull, you get the horns, fuck around, find out all that's coming to fruition in the next 4 years, especially. It's just, are Democrats going to get on board with it because it's against Trump, and it's just going to be some temporary pussy hat kind of fake thing?
Yeah.
Or are we going to form a real movement that really disrupts shit,
Well, Democrats are going to say this is why we have to protect Obamacare. That was already trending today. Look at that. Just as
they're trying,
all of a sudden, right? Oh, just as Trump is coming in, this is happening. We're going to see more of this because Trump wants to get rid of Obamacare. So they're going to defend Obamacare and probably still not even really protect it. Because even that, like, premiums are more expensive than they were. They've only risen. It's not like Obama, they say you can get like the worst level of health insurance, which covers nothing, but mostly premiums have just skyrocketed.
No, and obviously they're going to use Trump being elected as an excuse to please their donors more by allowing tweaks to make things worse and more profitable, worse for us, more profitable for the insurance companies. That's inevitable. And then when Democrats get back in power after, I don't know, 4 or 8 more years, they're just going to take this moment to say, well, you guys liked that side that wasn't very aggressive, wasn't offering healthcare. So we're going to ride with that a little bit and keep. They're not learning anything. Yeah. We know that.
No, well, they don't need to learn it. Yeah, it's not like they need to learn anything. They know it all. They know they're not in this to win office. They're in this to keep getting money from their donors. And, Obamacare was a Heritage Foundation, Project 2025 plan that was first called Romney Care in Massachusetts. And it was a massive giveaway. It is a massive giveaway to the health insurance industry. If you force everybody to have insurance, you're forcing them to buy into a system that exists to deny them health care. Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. I was looking at this comment from Devin.
Oh,
you wild if UH CEO killer vanished like DB Cooper. I was thinking what would be wild is if we see the next guy on that list and the same guy on the bike.
That is a slasher movie I would like to see.
All right. What do we got next?
I think we got to hash it out. We haven't even hashed it out yet.
Oh, we got to hash it out. Let's do that thing with the video.
Okay. Sorry, Zainab, thank you. Thank you so much. Cheers to you. Also, a reason we have a shortage in healthcare workers. They see this denial all the time. It wears on them. Private practices close, nurses quit, etc. Yeah, I mean, it is really the decimation of our healthcare system. And they are paid to ignore it. Thank you for your super chat. That's so generous. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. All right. Blue MAGA, red MAGA, make Israel great again, and one good thing. So here we go.
Blue MAGA, we obviously have the news of the week about Biden pardoning his son after saying forever he would not do such a thing.
What? He would?
From a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well, is there?
I just said no. I just answered. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Would the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear, and I said no.
The president was asked about whether he had ruled out a pardon for his son. What did he say?
The president answered point of blank, yes, when asked, have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Your son Hunter is on trial, and I know that you cannot speak about an ongoing federal prosecution. But let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
You have.
His son, Hunter, is also up for being sentenced next month. Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
Breaking news tonight. President Biden has made a decision to pardon his son Hunter ahead of the transfer of power to President-elect Donald Trump, according to a senior White House official with direct knowledge of the decision. He's expected to announce it later on tonight.
So thank you to Decensored News for that montage of all the lies with such condescension, especially from, I will not miss, I know Trump's going to have an awful press secretary, but Jean-Pierre, I don't know. I guess, is she better or worse than Psaki? Anyway, what's your feeling about this whole thing?
All right. I hate to say it. I have a nuanced feeling on this one.
I probably
might not even align with yours.
Oh, wow.
I know it sets a terrible precedent. I kind of just don't give a shit. Like it's of all the things, you know, there's truth. Look, there are layers to this. Like, obviously there's real crime and corruption with Burisma, with Ukraine. I believe all that stuff. There's some there's real meat and teeth to it. But that's not what he's getting. Crime. He got charged with gun charges, which
and tax evasion.
Gun charges and tax evasion, but he got charged mostly with crimes that were used as add-ons, typically to other crimes, to extend a sentence. So they don't normally charge you with not for lying about to get a gun permit, for example, right? That's like you got caught committing a crime with the gun, and they're like, "Oh, we got this too."
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So, so to me, you add that with the fact that, he's trying to protect his kid, and we know Trump is going to be going after them, and they're going to be. But you know, this is the above the law thing. Like that's you shouldn't. No one should be above the law. I mean, it's just in the level of all the things I should care about. I don't give a fuck. All these elite people, I'm not surprised at all that they get out of this. Like we saw this was going to happen. We knew this was going to happen.
100%. No, I agree with you with that part of it. Like, of course, this is going to happen. And you know, the three things, maybe four that are like really in my head. One is, this is the guy who wrote the crime bill, or, you know, who was like he is the crime bill. He locked people up for doing so much less than his own kid, threw away the key, ruined hundreds of thousands of people's lives.
That's the thing.
Exact same thing.
For sure. The arrogance of it to not like, he's known as one of the, he is in his first term or whatever, not first term, but he has delivered less pardons than any Democrat would have been expected to. So he should have coupled this move. If he's going to do it, he should be out there releasing a lot of fucking people. The civil rights
people's
movement.
Records, release them. How about done with the death penalty? Like, he's on his way out. He's got 30 days left. Do everything. Like, you don't care about the norms, right? Because like, this is pretty disgusting. It's Trump level gross. A lot of Democrats were really upset by it. Anybody who's upset by this action by Biden, who is somebody who thought that he was a decent person. And the only time anyone thought he was a decent person was after Super Tuesday, or right at Super Tuesday, when Obama picked up the phone, everybody drops out. So it's just Biden versus Bernie. And then they decide, we're going to remanufacture this disgusting, pathological liar, plagiarist, evil man who is like friends with segregationists, who wrote the crime bill, who knew that the Iraq war was a lie and still bullied people into it, who was disgusting with Anita Hill, which helped Clarence Thomas get there is a litany of disgusting, non-empathetic, non-decent things that Joe Biden did. So this is not surprising that he's Trumpish.
And I think that's why I don't really, there's so many more important things to care about. It's a terrible precedent, and obviously that part matters, but like the elite are always going to give the elites their little hall passes. You know, that's the way it is. You get out of jail free cards, whatever. And the one thing I would say, the people cheering this on, like that was such a, you know, it's heartwarming. They're going to cover this up with his kid, and the blue MAGA people who are like, this is great. You know, you're no different than Trump. Like you're
well, yeah. And, you know, again, it was, you know, a lot of them were like, this is the big difference between Biden, decent Biden, and Trump. He would never do something like this. Now they have to eat their words. And I don't,
you mean
know
Charlotte Clymer?
Yeah, or not embarrassing, upsetting for them. Maybe they're embarrassed. Charlotte Clymer, one of the worst libs out there. Hunter Biden has been convicted on all 3 federal felony gun charges. I know one thing for sure. President Biden isn't going to pardon him or commute his sentence because President Biden believes no one is above the law, not even a president or a president's son.
Yeah, and that was 6 months ago.
Yeah. And now couldn't care less about the pardon of Hunter Biden. The pundits who are weakly attempting to claim this is corruption can't bring themselves to admit that the only reason he was convicted in the first place is because he's President Biden's son, not because of what he did. You know, this ignores, first of all, again, like the pardoning goes back a decade in order to protect him from being brought up on charges of, one, not registering as a foreign agent for his work with Burisma in Ukraine.
It's protecting for 10 years of anything, like literal murder, protected during that time.
The only thing I did see, and so by extension, it feels like that also somehow might protect Joe Biden against his corruption in what he did in Ukraine, right? Or continues to do in Ukraine, but starting in 2014. But a legal mind, whom I don't remember who, but I thought this was interesting, and I don't know if we have any legal experts out there, said that because Hunter Biden is exonerated for any crimes having to do with that, he can no longer plead the 5th in a case because he wouldn't be able. It would not be, you know, it would not
self-incriminating.
Thank you. Yeah. Incriminating. It would not be self-incriminating, which means that he could possibly be called to like as a witness for the prosecution against Biden Sr. for his disgusting corruption in all of the money laundering going on in Ukraine. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, but they're gonna look, they're dropping all of that. I don't think we're going to be seeing the Republican Party going after Biden and his kid. I
think if Biden were younger, possibly. I don't think there's
no future in it. So what's the? Yeah. It's going to be. Look, Trump's going to abuse his power and go after other people.
Yeah,
but Biden has no power.
Right.
You know, I guess it's a boogeyman they can latch onto
for
a while.
Victoria Nuland.
It will feel like you're going backwards too much. Like it's not.
You know,
really
okay, so
persisting.
So he has 30 days left. He could do a lot of things defying the norms, right? He could, executive action. He could cancel student. He could forgive. You're going to pardon people. Forgive all student debt. Forgive all medical debt. If he were a different person, he could say, you know what, we are still in a global pandemic, according to the World Health Organization. Medicare for all is necessary. Like he could do things with his power, which he has right now, which he will not do. He could have pardoned, Marcellus Williams. He could pardon people on death row. He came in saying he was going to abolish the death penalty. He's done nothing about that. So much so that it was even taken off of the DNC platform in 2024, that they're anti-death penalty, the Democrats. So like there are things that he could do, and he's doing none of them. The most insane part of all of this to me is that there are some people who are truly outraged by this and have not said a mumbling word about his genocide.
Yeah, look,
Like that to me is it's like my mind is blown that these people are so upset that he could do a pardon for his kid, but nothing about genocide.
the time to protect Biden is long gone. Like,
yeah.
If you are a legitimate, like, decent Democrat who thinks you need to start winning because the right is so bad, demand this guy do something now. Use his power in any fucking way possible. Stop providing cover for him.
Yep.
Like, demand. He's got, somebody said 47 days left, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Something. He's not going to give us Medicare for all, but like, demand he release 2,000 people from death row, release all the people convicted of pot crimes, like, just do something. Like, use this alleged power that was given from the Supreme Court to do anything you fucking want or something. How can you not use that?
Because he really doesn't care, because he's not a decent man, because he's only ever been in it for himself and taking money from the worst people in the world. He's disgusting. And I just saw, so Truth to Tweet wrote, has Grandpa Joe cured cancer yet? God,
Who's going to do that?
I wish I could remember what article I was reading, an independent journalist. It might have been Ryan Grimm, but I don't remember. But that was actually the financing for the corporation or organization or whatever that was going to cure cancer was actually more of a data mining AI corporation. But in order to fund them, he said, this is it's not corporation, but whatever organization that we're going to give money to because they're going to help fund cancer, but it's much more of a surveillance. It was on, thanks,
right.
Kenny.
So he hid surveillance under
curing cancer, project. Right? Because anytime that they're getting your blood and your DNA and
they're
your
mining
data, yeah. And I mean, God, my brain is so bad with the journalist that you can't remember, and I can't either. Oh my God, my brain. Yeah, it was a really good interview, and I cannot remember. But anyway, I need to look it up. But yeah, he's repulsive. He's an awful, awful person, and he does not have a decent bone in his body. There was a whole article, and I think it was a current affair in 2019 when he was just in the primary, talking about what an insane, lifelong, pathological liar Joe Biden was. And the one that really stuck out to me the most was lying about the man who was in the fatal accident with his wife, with Biden's wife and infant daughter, and lying to everybody as a sitting senator. So somebody with some degree of power and notoriety, saying that it was because he was drunk, and the truck driver was not drunk. So, and never apologized for the rest of his life until that truck driver died. He was thought of as the person who killed Joe Biden's wife and infant daughter because he was driving drunk. And that's not what happened. It's just, like, so
he's
appalling.
a craven. He's always been a craven narcissist politician, and I think what this pardon does, which is in a way why I don't mind it a little bit, is that it showed some people who he is, like it's a little more wake up to like, oh, he's just like them, like politicians. So I'm not saying
I don't know how they didn't know that before. Like, that's the thing that's so striking to me. Like, how
they should have, but I'm just saying, like, every little evil thing that's clear to people is another, like, hey, wake up.
Chip in the armor. Yeah. Justin, cheers. Thank you so much. Super chat. Biden has 47 days left. What will he use them for people like us without investment accounts? Nothing. Neither would Harris. That's why they lost. And then I know, like, the retort is always like, oh, you think Trump would? No, that's not. I'm not voting for Trump. I don't think anybody, like, Nobody here is voting for Trump, probably. This is why 8 million people stayed home and did not vote for her.
Yeah. So the Rahm Emanuel clip really got me. Sorota shared this.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. Let's just, before it disappears, because sometimes that happens to us. We just want to. We want to thank Kimmy also for your super chat. Thank you. I love this community too. I can't be this angry most of the time. I know. I mean, I'm always this angry, but I really enjoy being able to share it with all of you instead of just stewing inside myself. So thank you. Thank you for your super chat. Thank you. Yeah, let's hear from Rahm Emanuel, something I never thought I would say.
Who they were pushing for DNC chair.
Yeah.
DNC chair, Rahm Emanuel, the corrupt politician from Chicago, he's been excommunicated from politics for the last 15 years.
And now they're bringing him back because they do not want to get money out of politics or corruption out of the DNC. Let's hear his.
There's an Iraq war, which the American people were deceived, spent trillions of dollars, thousands of soldiers lost their lives, people maimed for life. People were deceived and lied into a war, and not one person responsible for that deception ever was held accountable. 6 years later, the financial industry lies to the American people. People lose their homes, their livelihood, and the bankers are screaming for their bonuses. Nobody held accountable.
So he's explaining why
Where was
people
he during
have lost faith with the Democratic Party.
He was
literal chief of staff during all that.
I mean, he was there. He was the one. He was like advising Obama at the time. Don't look backwards. We're just going to look forward. Maybe tortured some folks. We're not going to prosecute war criminals here. In fact, we're just going to start 5 more wars and get that drone program up and running. And bailed out Wall Street and let Main Street just get decimated. And that was him. But I mean, he's right. Like, it's like that, the broken clock thing.
The right angst, but the angst is at you.
Yeah.
You were part of this.
I mean,
he didn't follow this up with, and I was a part of it, and we learned our lesson, and we shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. No, he's just gaslighting everybody.
Yeah.
And MSNBC is just, or CNN is just, promoting it. Like, they don't challenge him on this.
Nobody ever challenges them. Yeah, because honestly, they just don't even care. They just want to see their money coming, and they make excuses. Well, of course, Biden's a father. Of course, he pardoned him. And again, like, that's maybe the least bad thing that Biden's done in his whole political life is pardon his son. So, like, on that, I totally agree with you. Like, I don't.
Yeah, I'm not
really
pro him
care about
pardoning
any of
his
this.
son. I just like, there's 2,000 things more important to me than
it's that he pardons his son. It reminds me of when, and sorry, Kimmy, thank you. It was Whitney Webb, and that was such a good interview. And I actually I just ordered her book, which is all about we have to do like one. I would love to have her on, but like one really deep dive into Epstein and Mossad and all of that. She's so knowledgeable.
Let's make it a show.
Just love her. Yeah. Thank you, Kimmy. And thank you for being a member for 10 months. That's awesome. Jen Perlman says, hi, Jen, that I did not know that his father was a member of the Israeli terrorist group, the Irgun. Interesting. That's quite a trio, those Emanuel boys. I know we've talked about it before, but Zeke Emanuel is the doctor who said that basically after 70,
you can let
is life really worth living?
Yeah.
Kick in that medically assisted suicide, which we will be talking about on Sunday. We're waiting to confirm for sure, but Taylor Lorenz is supposed to be on Sunday, and she's gotten a lot of attacks this past few days with her take on COVID, which we agree with. Like, it's
logical and reasonable. Like, and she's getting attacked by
like major
alleged
journalists.
progressive left media.
Yeah.
So they
We're
can
taking it
fuck off,
seriously.
and we will
Yeah.
defend her on that forever.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Zeke Emanuel, gross, and Ari Emanuel, who is a head agent here in LA, who Jeremy Piven's character was modeled after in Entourage, and just scum. So proud family, that Emanuel family. They've really done themselves proud. But yeah, if you do not hold people accountable and you don't do anything for the people who voted for you, you destroy democracy. Like, it gives people no reason to show up. You lose 8 million voters coming to the polls for you. What's the point? You're giving
that was almost
loss.
that was almost my beer strike. That's
what?
drawing the line. She's going
now
out.
she's gonna get a timeout. It's the beer.
Look,
yeah.
Biden has managed to, and the Democratic Party have managed to convince the left to care less about the climate. And that's
The
I mean,
left,
obviously
not
COVID,
the
but the climate,
liberals.
back to the climate. This is one of his final parting moves. They're stopping funding from Climate Justice Alliance because they support a ceasefire in Gaza. So the Democrats are all on board on this bill to use, Palestine to go after
terrorist organizations in order to withhold funding and take away their 5013C status, right? And basically they are just serving on a silver platter all of the mechanisms for the fascism that they say Trump is going to bring. But Democrats are doing that. Chuck Schumer really hell-bent on getting that definition of anti-Semitism, the International Holocaust Remembrance Association, IHRA definition of anti-Semitism going, right? Like, those things are what's really important to Democrats, who are supposed to believe in the First Amendment and free speech and protesting your government. And meanwhile, Biden came in, and right away, the list of domestic violent extremists were climate protesters, anarchists, anti-capitalists.
I mean, think of the executive orders on the way out he could do regarding the climate. Like, yeah, we know that Trump can just overturn these things, but make him overturn them. Make him, you always say, oh, we got to get people on the record. That was the whole thing about force the vote and other issues, is like, tell us where you stand on this. Well, make Trump tell the working class where he stands on some of these things. When you give handouts to the working class, do that. Give some handouts to the working class on your way out.
Do something.
Make him rip those away. Tell them that the Democratic Party is the party that did this, not, oh, I got my kid off.
Especially as somebody, who cares? Like, none of this really matters, because listen, cable news is failing. MSNBC has, very few viewers, and CNN, all of those legacy media, corporate media establishments are failing. Now, probably with Trump coming back into power, they'll rise again. But they don't have Russiagate anymore. And a lot of them have made peace with him. Like, they're kind of okay with it.
They are. I think the coverage is going to be a little different this time around.
Yeah.
But I don't think they get their audiences back. I think it's like, once you've been Bernie pilled, or whatever you want to call us on the left, and that the mainstream media is lying to you. Like, if they try to get their audience back, well, their audience has now bought into this sort of Democratic Party bullshit about, climate change not being that important. And we can't really help Palestine. And, it's complicated, all that stuff.
It's gonna be worse. Just wait till he flattens Gaza.
So if they shifted, they're going to turn off that audience, which is all they got. So they're going to hang on to that audience and kind of double down on it. To me, I don't see them going more left.
Oh God, no, they're not going more left. But I just think they're done. Exactly.
I think they're done, because the people that don't trust them are not going to trust them because they're not going to shift left enough for them to have any faith in them. And again, online media and alternative media is going to keep growing because that's just the nature of things. You know, it's like,
and
it's a
because
natural
it's not,
shift.
Like, it's not about convincing anybody of anything, because they know they've seen more of this data than we have. So they know that most of the country wants free public education, wants Medicare for all, wants legalization of drugs, or at least marijuana, right? Like a living wage. They know all of that. There's no convincing them. They don't need to be convinced. They know what people want. They're paid to argue against it. There's no like, oh, but it's nuance. It's not nuance. Like, it's a genocide. People need health care. People need homes. Like, there's no, it's not about convincing anybody of anything. They are making millions of dollars to frame, Bernie as some radical when he's like center right in most of the world. And to say that it was the left that cost Kamala her election when she was parading around with war criminals. So there's no convincing them. Yeah. No, I mean, I know you know that, but like, it's just so ridiculous that we keep having to have these conversations with these morons, and they keep failing up.
Yeah, the media people do. But I think on the Democratic Party side of things, we're going to get a return to pretending to be left, I think, soon. Right. I think that's kind of like the natural. You got to pretend to be left again. Yeah. That's the lesson here. But again, that's going to be them pretending to convince the audience that we need these things that they can't get past, and pretending they don't have any power to actually do it unless you elect 20 million of them. Yeah. So I don't know where we go from here.
Why the whole norms thing is just so ridiculous, because we know that, when Biden wants to, he byskirts 26 environmental laws to continue building Trump's wall. He goes by Congress to, bomb Syria and do a genocide, even though there is overwhelming evidence that sending arms to Israel is illegal, right? So like, he byskirts norms all the time. So when he says, oh, we have to listen to the parliamentarian, I don't know when normie Dems are going to figure out that it's the rotating villain and it's the, when they figure that out, and when they're not more scared of Trump than Democratic Party elites are, and they're not scared at all.
Look, they all survived.
Change will happen. Yeah.
The normie Dems all survived 4 years of Trump the first term.
Yeah.
They're not really going to be affected by him this next term either. So it's none of that, except that they're going to be more and more affected by just the decline of our healthcare system. Unless you're really up there, like, healthcare is going to hit these people. They're going to see a lot of protesting. They're going to see unions. They're going to see all this stuff that they might get on board with because it's Trump as president. Can we latch onto them and keep them and push them further to say, hey, just electing a Democrat doesn't fix any of this. That's our job. Is a Democrat doesn't fix this. Something else fixes this.
Yeah. Yep. Let's hope. All right. Should we spin the wheel and have it? Because we're going to get right back in it with the Pod Save America boys.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you're going to include that with this, but yeah, let's spin the wheel.
Yeah, we should get a little bit of a moment of joy.
Yeah, baby.
All right. While we roll this, I will refill my wine glass.
Amen.
Fue a esto.
Extra.
That was very cute. I like it.
When I was a kid.
Wait, I'm just putting this up so we don't forget. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Justin.
I know. A second one. Thank you. And Joe is not empowered to cure cancer. If he did it,
That was the wildest thing to say that.
Which meant absolutely
we all got health care.
Nothing. If we had Medicare for all, it would be an insult to his dead son, Bo. Unbelievable. Thank you. Cheers, Justin. Thank you. Okay. Yes. What were you?
Oh, I was just gonna say regarding the cats. When I was a kid, we had a cat you could rub on his butt, and it would just immediately go attack the dog for it. It hated the rub, and it was like, oh fuck, where's that dog? So we're kids, so we're terrible people.
That is very funny.
We do that
the poor dog. That reminds me when my younger son Xander was little. I'm just getting all the cat. Lots of people
above the law. Yes, they do.
Above the law.
Dead body on my porch.
I know, that's crazy. That poor mouse.
Pee on my couch.
My younger son was always so worried that my older son Asher was gonna like take something or do something before he got to it, and we were at his little mommy and me class, and my older son wasn't even anywhere there, and like she rang the little bell. We did Montessori where they could have a knife and cut their bananas. And if you broke the glass in the pitcher of the orange juice that you squeezed yourself, you as a 1.5-year-old or 2-year-old would go get the broom and the dustpan. And, the parents would all be just sitting there like, oh, I could do this in 3 seconds. It's taking half an hour, right? But it was like all, complete your task. But so she would ring the bell and you had to finish your little job. They called them jobs before you could go line up to get a snack or to volunteer to do one of the cutting jobs or something, and all the kids love to do that. And Xander was in the middle of his little job and she rang the bell and he just said, no, Asher, like Asher was going to get to it before him. And it just like, that reminds me of you're saying like, if anything happened, when you scratch the butt, it was like, get that dog. Like he's out to get me. No matter what happens to me, it's the dog's fault.
Right.
Was that it? Was that just it was a lot of big quagmire in my brain.
That's all right. I didn't know where it was going, but I get it.
I know. It's just always
you brought it home.
Feeling it's like God out there. Okay. Oh, look, we spared everybody watching the View's response to that pardon. Good. We don't need to do that. It was just another.
I haven't watched that. So is it? Let's watch it. I want to watch it. I'm gonna force it on you guys. Sorry, I apologize in advance, but I need some hate in my heart.
Yeah, you do.
Bring some hate.
Catch up with me. You feel a little like zen today. It's the beard.
It's not. It's false. It's the beard.
It's the beard.
I want to understand two things because I respect it as a parent. I understand why he would do it, but I wonder to understand why lie about it for so long.
I'd stop calling it a lie.
Okay, why repeatedly say you're not going to and you do? And secondarily, for the part of this country, half of it that doesn't support Biden, doesn't know him personally, doesn't get to have phone calls, and they're just looking at a system that seems like it only benefits the people who are in power.
I'm going to say,
what precedent does that set?
Well, here's what it sets. It's a precedent for all of us to open our eyes because we've elected someone who is in a similar situation, who didn't have a drug problem, who knew what he was doing, who clearly stood and said, I can do this. And he did it. So I think, for many, many reasons, this is very different than any other situation that we have ever dealt with. Because when we're talking about who gets a pardon and who doesn't get a pardon, this man, I think Biden had no intentions of pardoning Hunter. And I think the more stuff that went down, I think he said, well, why am I busting my behind to stay straight and do this when nobody else is
going to win? I think he thought he was going to win, and I just wish he would have been honest with the public.
He said he wasn't going to pardon him even after.
I mean, again, like the biggest part of this to me is for 14 months, we have been watching babies torn apart, safe tent zones being bombed, humanitarian aid workers, doctors being sniped. A little 2-year-old baby yesterday was just shot through the heart. Baby shot in the head repeatedly to make sure they
And
die.
it's all about
death,
them. It's all about them and the elites.
Yeah.
You know, that's what this brings home to me. Like,
yeah, it's just
the things we
so
care about
wild.
aren't what he cares about on his final days in office. It's this, you know, it's like,
Yeah. And all the people who surround him feel the same way. Like,
Strike agrees.
yeah, gross. Okay. So speaking of not learning anything, you know, the flawless campaign that Kamala ran, that's where we are right now, right? Or was there any other thing that you wanted to talk about in their previous bit?
No, I forced the view on you. And I'm going
Yeah.
to let you run the rest of the show for that, because that was painful and I regret it.
You just relax. Shut up.
I'm just going to pet my cat.
Yeah, pet your cat. The Pod Save America boys had Stephanie Cutter and David Plouffe and oh God, what is the other lady's name? Jen O'Malley Dillon and Quentin Fulks on to discuss. I don't know what the title was, but it wasn't what went wrong, or if it was, the whole hour and a half that I suffered through. You're welcome. Was about all the things they did right. And basically they were facing lots of headwinds that could have done a lot better. And there was not a single mention of policy. And there wasn't a single mention of genocide at all. It was a lot of cope and it was gross.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Were you talking before?
Strike stepped on my mouse, and now I need to find the audio settings somehow because I can't hear anything.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Just play on.
All right.
The show must go on.
The show must go on.
Fix it.
All right. So this was Stephanie Cutter and talking about how the difficult contradictions that they had to work around with Kamala.
On the Biden question, we of course got that everywhere we went. And we knew what the data was. We knew we had to show her as her own person and point to the future and not try to rehash the past. She also felt that she was part of the administration. And unless we said something like, well, I would have handled the border completely differently, we were never going to satisfy anybody. We were trying to tell a story and give the impression that she was different without pointing to a specific issue.
Can I ask this, why not a specific issue? Is this something she was unwilling to do? I mean, you worried it would feel disingenuous?
She felt like she was part of the administration, so why should she look back and cherry pick some things that she would have done differently when she was part of it? She had tremendous loyalty to President Biden. You've been on plenty of campaigns. Imagine if we said, well, we would have taken this approach on the border. Imagine the round of stories coming out after that of people saying, well, she never said that in a meeting, or what meeting when she said this, or I remember when she did that. And it wasn't going to give us what we needed because it wouldn't be a clean break. It would be, you know, days upon days in a limited time window that we had of dealing of who, what, when, where. So the best we could do, and the most that she felt comfortable with, was saying, like, look, vice presidents never break with their presidents. The only time in recent memory is when Pence broke with Trump after Trump stormed the Capitol.
They call that the murder exemption. If the president tries to murder you, you can break. Yes.
If you are, you know, ripping up the Constitution, trying to overturn an election, people die, then you could break with your president.
Okay. So here's the norms thing again. You can't break with your president. You want to be leader of the free world. You want to be the most powerful person in the world. And you say you're a change candidate, but you can't break with him on a genocide that we are illegally against our own laws, arming and funding. But you're a change candidate, but you're loyal. You have no business in it. Like you go away. Like,
look, these people are bad at politics for one, but if they're being honest, her answer should have been, we were given a shit sandwich because she's a terrible candidate. A. B, the donors don't allow us to change positions on this much. If we even speak about that, we'll lose all our funding from our donors, which we could still win the election because that would win us the election, getting more of the public buy-in to this stuff. But no, we have to stick with our shit sandwich, which is our shit positions and our shit candidate who is terrible at fucking everything she ever did, except for the debate. That's the only thing she ever did decent at, and that's because Trump is awful too. But that's it.
Not a single talk about politics or ideology. And they talked a little, they spent a long time on that anti-trans ad of Trump's, Kamala's for they, them, we're for you, or whatever the hell they said. And, how do we respond to it? What do we do? Well, the polling said it was all polling, and like the percentages, David Plouffe has a whole algorithm on the swing states and how 30% are liberal and 40% are conservative, and we needed to get that. But how about like believing in something, in some policies that a majority of this country wants? They're never going to say that. And I know it's like beating a dead horse. We say it all the time.
Yeah. Well, look, they want to make this about these, fringe, and they're not fringe because they're important to the people that they're important to, but they want to make it about the cultural issues because that distracts from the real issues. And
but now they're going to abandon those also.
Exactly. But all they had to do, look, if it's the economy, stupid, right? So let's just take it back to that. That's how elections work. It's the economy, stupid, for 99% of every fucking election that's ever been there.
Yeah.
Your personal economy, not the US's economy and GDP. Nobody gives a fuck about that. Gas prices, bread prices, that shit.
United Healthcare.
So all you had to show is that you would do that, and they would overlook whatever their feelings were on the other thing, just like they overlook Trump's disgustingness because they think he's better on that. So even if they disagreed with you on the trans stuff, if you offered them something on the economy side, on the healthcare side, that part is what they always ignore intentionally because they know they can't go there because they're not allowed to if you're a donor or a consultant for the DNC and the Democratic Party.
And I mean, like, they have now lost to Trump twice, 2 times out of 3. And they are still going to be multimillionaires, and they're still going to get hired on the next campaign because none of it matters, because their business model is not built on winning elections. So it doesn't matter
at all. It's irrelevant.
It's totally irrelevant. And I do think that they know it. Like, they think that they're like, numbers people. And I mean, we don't even have to suffer through the whole thing with David Plouffe, but like telling us about the swing states. Meanwhile, like, there were governors in the swing states who won, who were Democrats, right? She didn't win a single one.
Yeah.
Maybe don't walk around campaigning with Liz Cheney.
I mean, they showed how terrible that strategy is. And the people that worked on her campaign admitted that she was never ahead of Biden. I mean, she was never ahead of Trump ever.
Yeah.
At no point. So it was all a farce to the public. All of it. Biden was down he was going to lose 400 delegates if Biden was in there. So the whole Democratic Party lied to everybody. So that's where it does, this whole pardon thing factors into some people's minds. Some people are like,
it just feels like you don't want to take responsibility for anything. Because I've never seen, there were some high profile people who called out the Pod Save people and for not pushing back more, right? Like, why didn't she separate herself on any issue? Oh, well, that's not the norm. And then he's like, oh, the murder exception, la la. It's so funny. Why didn't she go on any podcasts that were meaningful the way Trump did? She could have gone on Rogan. She could have, Trump got 11 million viewers, 8 million viewers. She got 400,000, I think. And if I'm wrong, it was 800,000, but whatever, not a lot for her $1 million set that she had to build for the.
Oh, ridiculous for the
Kiss Me Daddy. What is it? Be My Daddy.
I don't know. Yeah. Something daddy.
But like,
but
it was a scheduling conflict. We only had 107 days. People didn't know her. The fuck they didn't know her. They knew her. They hated her. That's why she didn't get a single vote and she had to withdraw in 2020. Like, but everybody knows her.
Can I just say, this is why they're terrible at their jobs regardless.
Yeah.
Right. If your directive is to push a candidate that isn't going to be a change from the last guy, and you're stuck with that, you just have to do it. Well, what you do is you lay out a complex plan for how she's going to complete the objectives that he started,
right,
or something. You go,
yeah,
here's where we go next. And if that's your goal and you're going to stick to that, they didn't even do that. And you can put it on you can't blame the timeline for it. Like
we only had
she's known,
days.
she was picked 10 years ago for this
Yeah.
fucking job.
Exactly.
So like to say, oh, it was down to 60 days or something, we had 90 days to come up with a plan.
107, they kept saying 107 days, and the headwinds. They kept talking about how he, well, she did better. She, in our polls, did better than Biden was going to be doing. You've got a geriatric, sundowning, mentally, whatever. Oh my God, my brain. Now I'm going to talk about Biden's brain. Well, I can't even formulate a sentence. Anyway, there were lots of excuses. There were lots of excuses and no apologies and nothing we would really do differently. Nothing. Never apologize. It's unpopular to apologize. There was another whole thing about so you had to maximize your base while campaigning with Cheney, and there's never a question of like, well, who do you lose? It's like, you don't just keep adding to it by deciding to put yourself with Mark Cuban and Liz Cheney and 200 war criminals from the George W. Bush regime. You might gain some people, who knows, because that's not worked ever. Whenever Dems run scared and to the right, they have lost. But like you lose your whole base. They've lost their base.
Yeah, I mean they basically said like we're going to be sort of evilish, in a way. Like
yeah,
it's like, this is not a good analogy, but I just thought of it in my head, so I'm just going to throw it out there. If I'm dating and I'm going to add on my profile, I'm a smoker,
because you want to get smokers.
That's going to get me some smokers.
It's going to Pat, that's a really good analogy. I know
people
I
that
don't
weren't
say this
smokers
enough.
were going to think, you know what? He's a smoker. I'm a smoker. I'm good.
Yeah.
But how many people are like, I thought we were against smoking. I thought we thought that was not good for your health.
Yeah.
And turn off.
Yeah. It's a zero-sum game, or even worse, possibly. The other thing that they said was overlearning is a mistake. Overlearning. You don't want to analyze this so much and overlearn. But so they did get, there was a bunch of, I just want to see the podcast stuff. They kept making like scheduling issues. Again, if you are applying to be the most powerful person in the world, there are no scheduling conflicts. You do exactly what you want. You want to be with Rogan, you fly him in, or you fly there and you say, I'm good. But like, you wanted to do Rogan, you go on Rogan. She didn't do Rogan because she sucks. And the more she talks, the more awful she is. And the more people recognize how awful she is. That's why she didn't do.
Like,
Rogan.
hate, whatever Rogan, he's good at having a conversation. He's not going to challenge you that much. He's a pretty agreeable guy in general, but he's going to ask some stuff. And she's just so bad, even in a friendly environment for an hour,
she'd fuck it up.
He's going to challenge her enough that she's absolutely going to fuck it up. And that's where, they were given a shit sandwich trying to manage her, if they would only be honest about that, but they can't do that because they're going to try to rehabilitate her career and make her governor here.
Yeah. Well, she's already talking also about 2028. It's her
again. Come on.
Here she comes. So it was interesting though to see, writers for the New York Times called them out for not pushing back. And Jon Favreau had a kind of a meltdown, responding to everybody and quote tweeting them, you okay? You've not gotten enough credit for breaking the news that Joe Biden is old. And meanwhile, Astead Winsley or whatever his name is for the New York Times is also a liar. They all knew that Joe Biden was mentally feeble back in 2019. And they talked about it openly until he became the nominee. So, everybody should have shame in this. But anyway, for Astead to call Jon Favreau basically a grifter is kind of hilarious. There was also, again, all these people are so disgusting. Schlossberg, who's a Kennedy, rich as hell, Nepo baby. Pod save my limp dick. If you don't push back, I will do it for you. Time for something new. I'm not sure we can help you for this, but I think one of our sponsors may be able to help, which actually is also so hilarious because, they take money from everybody. They're just disgusting people. I mean, they're truly disgusting.
All pimping dick pills,
And he's just like saying that, like, this is what we do. How do
you know who
think we
started
make our
that
money?
trend?
Yeah.
Alex fucking Jones was the first douchebag to pimp
To
dick
read his
pills.
own,
And here we are
yeah.
again, boner pills,
And gold.
I mean, it was bad. Whatever.
Bakari Sellers, of all people. He called their interview disappointing. Criticizing the interview is one thing, but I'm not sure I understand your criticism because you're supposed to push back. But, that's the other thing. It's like, obviously, none of these people is a journalist. They're all just sycophants for whichever party group of elites they are, trying to get cozy with. So, no, they're not going to push back. It was inane to listen to what those 4 people on Pod Save America were saying and not push back. That was pretty much the one pushback was, well, why she couldn't do it on just one issue, and also why couldn't she just go on more podcasts? Those were the 2, and the response was just accepted, and then we move on with a little joke about the murder exception or whatever. And then this was what was the final one was this is kind of crazy. I forgot about this, that she was advertising on the Las Vegas Sphere, spent $450,000 a day to advertise on that Sphere, which was owned by James Dolan, who was a Trump guy. So she's giving him more money than he's spending on Trump every day.
What I find the most interesting about that one is that I never saw that picture until now.
Yeah.
So she spent $450,000 a day for something that only people in Vegas probably saw. It didn't, where's the reach beyond that?
Yeah.
Like, where is it? Visitors to Vegas?
What is that for? Like, is that just it's just vibes? Because it's not
vibes.
Like policy.
Exactly.
It's not like I'm fighting for you. This is what we're going to get. We are all going to come together the way they just did in South Korea. We are going to fight for this and force them. We're all going to have healthcare, or we're all going to have a living wage. Nothing.
I got terrible analogies today, but it's like a rapper spending $2 million on a gold ring, a gold necklace, because it looks like he's made it, kind of thing. Like it looks like she made it somehow because she spent all this money.
She's already
on this,
up there on
this thing, but nobody saw that, so it's not effective. It's the dumbest spend in history.
Because even if they did see it, I hear what you're saying. Like, oh, it's like putting herself behind the president or in front of the presidential seal. But
it's the Taylor Swifting it.
Okay, I will say so. This was from Branko Marcetic, who did an analysis of Kamala's messaging and how it affected her popularity. Okay, so. Major findings from an analysis of hundreds of Harris speeches, interviews, rallies, etc. As donors and corporatist consultants took over her campaign, Harris ran less and less as a populist, let alone a progressive one. So this was one. The whole campaign, Harris spoke less about economic issues and progressive economic policy priorities than Joe Biden had in 2020. And far less than Sanders had in the Democratic primaries that year. In this cycle, Trump addressed perhaps the most important issue for voters, prices and the cost of living. He did that more than twice as often as Harris. Tax the rich and price gouging.
Stupid.
Yeah, exactly. But she couldn't do that because when you are cavorting around the country with Mark Cuban and billionaires and saying that oh, I'm Pritzker, I'm a real billionaire, and that's something laudable, you cannot have an economic message about, you have to call out the villains. And Trump's a liar and he's a disgusting racist. And so his villains are immigrants. Her villain was Trump and the end of democracy. And that was not a winning message. Nobody cared. The real villains are billionaires and a system that allows them to buy our government.
But she ran a dual campaign. She ran on one hand, Trump was the villain. On the other hand, all his villains were also the villain, but just less so.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to blame immigrants and crime. We're going to blame crime on immigrants and, the border policy,
Right.
even though that's not it at all.
Right. Yeah. Because it was, and again, like, it's not even the worst lessons. Because again, like, maybe they don't know. I have no idea.
They
but
know.
They know, right? So
They totally
for her
know
to
what they're
take
doing.
on the border wall and say what we really wanted was this disgusting fascist draconian border bill that goes against American principles. Like, even, Reagan would say, we want to invite people into our country. That's what America was built on. And immigrants, we're a nation of immigrants. And she's do not come. We wanted to do the border bill, but the far right border bill, but Trump prevented it. And we're building that wall that Trump said he was going to, but didn't. And we're doing it. And instead of making immigrants the demons, which they're not, and it's disgusting that that's now become commonplace with Democrats. Like, they have succeeded in minimizing COVID, taking away abolition, or, the attempt to abolish the death penalty, the kind, open way of accepting immigrants, and made it acceptable to be racist, disgusting Democrats on the left who get to say, don't wear a mask, you're a moron,
right.
Close the border, build the wall, frack.
That's the point of all this election analysis coverage to me after the fact, is that we can't let them get away with their explanation for why they lost, because they obviously will continue to find reasons to go right and say we should have been more, this progressive stuff on the left hurt our, annoyed our members, our base. We can't let that stand when we talk to our normie Dem friends. We have to challenge that and say, no, actually, it cost you all these voters when you went that way.
Yeah.
That's why she lost. She didn't listen to the public on Palestine. Should have listened to the public. So maybe next time when me, the public, is telling you it's going to cost your party the election if she doesn't shift policy, maybe you get behind that a little bit and pressure her a little bit next time.
Yep. Yeah, no, they caved on all the messaging. They let Trump define everything. They said, especially for like that trans thing, where his message, which was a really effective message, she's for they, them, and I'm for you, which I don't even know if that was the second part, but whatever. But the reason that somebody like Kamala can't counter that is because if you actually are for trans rights, which anybody should be who has a heart and a brain or any sense of decency, but instead of just saying that, but also like, because my policies are actually for everybody, right? So she can get pegged as, I'm just going to, I'm for trans rights. I'm for, the whatever, the flag, and for, the DEI, all that crap, because she didn't stand for anything else. And now they're even going to abandon the social issues, which are important, but they're even going to abandon those. And they still don't have an economic message. So it's like, they've lost.
Well, that's
totally
obviously the problem.
Empty.
The problem is she didn't define herself because she didn't want to define herself. And because if she defines herself as sporting these economic issues or whatever, then I don't know, then that becomes more part. It gets stuck to the Democratic platform, and the Democratic platform wants to get away from that because all the donors don't want to hear about fucking taxing billionaires anymore. They don't want to hear that Bernie stuff about giving people health care. They don't want any of that. So she couldn't attach herself to that. She couldn't do it.
I mean, honestly, it really would have been so dangerous if she had won. The last little bit here, which is just so funny that they keep doing this. So, Bernie has said, and listen, again, I mean, I always say, we always have to like preface everything with like, I know he's let us down and whatever, but and he should not have given cover to Biden. ever. But, you know, saying that the new head of the DNC and the platform of the DNC has got to be to take money out of politics. We're never going to change anything if we continue with this, because she's going to, and every candidate in the, you know, in the Democratic Party, and obviously the Republicans, yeah, I know they're gross. We're supposed to be the opposition party, or Democrats are supposed to be the opposition party. But if we don't take money out of politics, then every single candidate is listening to their donors and not to the will of the people, right? So he says this, and here's MSNBC with their rejoinder.
So you had Bernie Sanders tweeting on Monday, if the Democratic Party is to become a Democratic Party, the first job of a new DNC chair is to get the super PAC money out of Democratic primaries. AIPAC and other billionaire-funded super PACs cannot be allowed to select Democratic candidates. They typically don't. They're not going to put their money into a DNC chairman's race. So again, for me, as the former head of a party, as county chairman and a state chairman, that to me is short-sighted thinking about where the landscape is. One thing that has very little to do with the other. Super PACs and all those guys play in elections and campaigns. That's a different conversation than running for chairman and telling the people who are going to write checks, we don't want you writing checks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. With all due respect to Senator Sanders, you know, you might want to join the party if you want to have something.
Well, there is that.
So, you know, just on its face, that's a little problematic for me. Now, in terms of the money, look, that's not the DNC's issue. You're exactly right, Mr. Chairman, that that kind of money is in local races and state races, and the laws vary by state. Yep. So for the DNC to spend its time and energy on what state A says versus what state B says, versus what C candidate C says, just doesn't make any sense to me. There's so much work for the next chair to do. That would not be in the top 10 of things that I'd focus on.
11 or 12.
50.
I hate them. They can cackle all the way to the bank. It would not be oh my God.
So basically, the people that have benefited the most from all that PAC money
don't want it to end.
RNC chair telling the Democratic Party out of act. First off, that's the first problematic part of this.
Yeah.
The laughable RNC chair who they mocked for years while he was RNC chair for being unqualified and the stupid black Republican. Like, how are you a black Republican in the first place? That's the take they had on him.
Yeah, that was their big thing. Yeah. I mean, so disgusting. And of course, there's no talk about policy, and it's like half of the people who are on the DNC committee are lobbyists themselves, right? So like to act like it doesn't matter and they're not putting their money in is just embarrassing. We all
and to act like they also put it on like, okay, but we can't control what the states do and the local stuff. Like that's going to be a stretch to get to no, you can control all of it by just saying this is the Democratic Party's fucking policy. Like that's all garbage. That's entirely gaslighting. And there's 4 people who all know it is too. They know it. They're all playing along.
They're talking to their donors. That's all they're talking to, and trying to, you know, convince the few viewers that they have, the blue hairs, that that's just not the way things are done. There are norms, and that, you know, we have to follow the norms, and you just don't understand. And Bernie's not even a real Democrat. And, you know, at least he was never a Republican, right? Like Liz Warren, like Hillary Clinton, like all of these bullshit, disgusting right-wing people who will deny us all a living wage and healthcare to reap the benefits from their donors. They are all murderers. They are social murderers. That's who they are.
But evil, to me, that clip tells you even more, because like, for them to all be out there saying basically money out of politics, it wouldn't be the top 15 things. Like if you ask people, it would be. Like if you talk about like No, first they want healthcare and all that other stuff, but like they understand if you don't get the money, like if you ask them what is the number one
thing
problem with politics, it would be number one every fucking time.
100%. Yeah, no, these are vile people and they should all become CEOs of health insurance companies.
UHC, whatever.
Yeah. Has an
whoever was number 2.
I hear they have an opening.
Run the second company behind UHC for denials.
Disgusting system we've got here. All right.
Yeah, baby.
Look at all those drink wedges. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm gonna. Oh my God, it's late. Okay, I'm removing one and spinning.
Yeah, baby.
All right, timeline cleanse.
Let's see some art.
I love that. The only thing that makes me sad is that it's not permanent and somebody worked so hard on each one of those and then it's going to get wiped away. But those were awesome.
Like I was an art history major and I hate the canon of art and how people, I just appreciate so much street art and just, I almost like the temporary nature of it. And the people are doing it for no, like, you know what? I'm such a, like, when they, have you seen the YouTube things or TikTok of people just painting a person on the subway and then handing them the picture?
I love that. Yeah.
I'll be honest. I break. Sometimes that gets me.
I know.
It's an emotional thing to me because it's just art for art. And they're just like,
it's
here,
so
appreciate it.
Too, right? Like it's your heart and soul in your craft. And then you're like, just hand it to somebody. It's
I think that's the coolest thing on earth.
It's very cool. That was good. Nicely done. Good job. Good job, Pat. I normally try to make it seem like we both do everything, which clearly there's no way we could both do everything. But I will hand that to you.
No, good God, no.
Okay.
We have 2 topics we haven't even gotten to yet with 12 minutes left in the show.
Sure do.
We're rusty. We took 10 days off.
It took a really long time, but there's also a lot to talk about. What do you think?
You pick it.
Well, I kind of think we should, I don't know. I think we should just do COVID, even though probably, we're waiting for the confirmation. I think that we're good, but I think we'll have plenty to talk about anyway. If Taylor Lawrence comes on Sunday about COVID and the medical assisted suicide made legislation happening around, in Canada, UK, I'm sure it's coming here. Thanks, Zeke Emanuel. But because we don't have a lot of time, and I always feel bad when we go quickly with Israel.
Yeah, rushing through Israel is not the right way to go, I guess. But
just
a pandemic. We got 10 minutes on the pandemic.
I know. All right. Well, this is sort of 5 years ago, December 1st, a man in Wuhan, China starts feeling ill, becoming the first confirmed case of COVID-19. So we've just passed our 5-year anniversary, which means we are now into our 6th year. Cheers. We are 4 days into the 6th year of COVID. Reminder that 49% of COVID infections are asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic. So just because somebody's not sneezing or coughing or has a fever does not mean that that person is not spreading the sickness to you. And that death is not the only measure, because while there are fewer deaths, although still plenty from COVID, the more important metric probably right now, or additionally, is long COVID and how debilitating that is, especially because your risk for it is accumulative, and the more infections you get, the more likely it is that it will trigger a dormant virus in you, that it will dysregulate your cells that fight cancer, that you'll have a stroke or a heart attack. All of those things go up.
Right. So imagine if we knew right now there was a direct correlation between COVID and a 5-year death sentence on a cancer. Like a cancer hits you, but like basically we're not at that, because you can't draw the lines connect directly like that. But we are at you are shortening the lives of all these kids who are going to get it 5 to 10 times in 5 years. You can't, this is very bad. We know so much about it, even though we don't know, we can't connect the dots to exactly everything, but we know it's bringing up all these numbers in all these areas. All the science points to terrible things in the long run if we just keep exposing people to this. And the vaccine only approach is failing miserably.
And they were honest about it when Trump was president and he did the Operation Warp Speed for vaccines. The medical community, even the ones who went on corporate media, said vaccine only strategy will not work, especially not if we listen to Bill Gates and refuse to waive the patent for the global south.
And imagine the vaccine only strategy. The people that said that never envisioned even the vaccine only strategy being this low, the uptake, because there's no public pressure on this. We're at under 20% uptake of the vaccines. Boosters are less than 20% now.
And most people who get, the advice on all of it, right? So people who are getting Novavax for the first time, even if they've gotten mRNA before or Johnson & Johnson or whatever you got, the advice on dosage is inconsistent and hard to find. And now, and I've sent it to my mother and my mother-in-law, and you're supposed to get a booster 8 weeks later if you get Novavax for the first time, even if you've had other vaccines. Nobody knows that. You have to bring in your screenshot from the FDA saying that if you're immunocompromised, which, by the way, almost all of us, if you've ever had COVID, or if you're over 65, or if you get headaches, or if you have a bad back, or if you have any, if you're a cancer survivor, if you have any number of preconditions, which most of this country, the estimate is that 95% of this country has had COVID. That's a precondition. Right there, that's considered something that you could consider yourself immunocompromised, but also they can't ask you. If you say, yes, I'm immunocompromised, so I need the booster, they can't say, oh, exactly how are you immunocompromised? That's not, it's your discretion whether or not you reveal that. But nobody even knows that's what's being advised.
There's no public messaging on this. And the only message the public gets on this is even that 90%, when the public hears the 95% number you've said, that 95% of the country's had it. Well, that's herd immunity, to the people who have, they really think there's this sort of I had COVID, it wasn't that bad. And because there's no messaging on what multiple exposures could do to you, that message does not exist.
Yep.
If there was an ad on TV that you saw occasionally, just enough that everybody saw this thing that hey, by the time you get 5 exposures, you're probably going to have long COVID permanent problems in your life.
Yeah.
Like,
Nothing.
it,
Because then the next step is, well, then in order to avoid that, try to avoid getting infected. And then that means
then you'd say
wear a
how,
mask, clean the air, right? Like, yeah. So yeah, right now people are thinking that, and it's always starts with economists, both the bad and then the sort of reckoning with how it's going to affect the economy. But that long COVID is much more pervasive. And yes, your risk increases with each infection. It's estimated
13% chance of long COVID after 1, 23% after 2, 37% after 3. Now that t-shirt about, the monkeys
after 10, all the mice
after
died.
10 infections, all the mice were dead or whatever it is. Like,
yeah. If you've had it once or twice, don't get it again. Like,
try to get it as little as
mask.
possible is the point.
God.
You're not
Like,
doomed if you got it once, but we know it's building. It builds.
I don't ride on motorcycles, even though I did when I was younger, and I wear a seatbelt every time. Like, I don't know. I don't find it so difficult to try to take care of myself and the people around me. But anyway, this is so One Good Turn account is in the UK, but this is really fascinating. The rolling 12-month sickness absence rates for the National Healthcare Services staff in England. I got to put my readers on, but that line that is on the x-axis that pretty much just goes a little down and a little up depending on it's cold season, up and down, but pretty much remains flat, right?
The idea is that the pandemic hit the vaccine hit in 2021. Is that what they're trying to say?
No, this is a pro COVID conscious
no
account.
I'm just trying to I'm trying to understand it myself.
Okay. So up until 2020, which is when COVID starts, that's the beginning of the pandemic where you see that rise in the red. Okay. Those are the absences from, I think it's like the 6th or 7th biggest employer in the UK is the NHS. Okay. So they're just going through data for people who are sort of like chronically sick and having to opt out of work over and over. So pretty much it was like, I have a cold, I'm gone for a day, I'm up, but like it keeps going up and down right around the 0 line. Okay. Of the x-axis. Then the pandemic hits. A lot of people are sick and out. That's the beginning of the pandemic. That's 2020 and to mid 2021 is that small red bump. That's where people who minimize COVID say back during COVID, like that was a thing from the past. Okay.
Right.
From mid 2021 to now, 2024, it is only risen. And even the valleys, as we talk about all the time, have never gotten back to that 0 line. Right. So the valley, which happens, after like you see inside that circle, right? There's a valley towards the right side of it. That is what people normally consider like, before vaccines and that 2022, take your mask off. Biden and Dr. Jill, the air smells so much sweeter. Take your mask off and let it rip and all that kind of stuff. Leanna Wen and Ashish Shah and all of them are telling us, go back to work and no sick days, no paid sick leave, only quarantine if you have a fever and not so big a deal. And then it just keeps growing. And even when it dips, which is the far right of this graph, right? That is, I don't even know how many times higher than the 10 years before that, right?
And again, I got 2 points. One, if you just map this out for the next 10 years, you see there's an incline the whole way up. It wouldn't be these peaks and valleys. It would just be a steady incline up. And what you're doing is you're giving this to our kids. This is they're doomed in their lives. They have no futures with this trajectory. That's what's the honest truth here. And the other thing I wanted to say is this is sickness rates. So this is not calculating how bad it is because people drop out of the workforce after long COVID. You can't stay in the workforce largely. You're not, you're dismissed by your employers. It's hard for these people to work who have POTS and MES and MCS or whatever. But so this isn't public health. This is employment at their place being sick. So it's much worse because this is not calculating people that just dropped out.
Right. Exactly. It's like how unemployment doesn't count people who are just like not even going to look for employment anymore because they're out of the workforce because of being sick. Exactly. So that's the UK. This is, in Chicago. So this was from a week ago. 4 in 10 Chicago public school teachers were chronically absent last year. And, they say with a job with a median salary of $95,000, I think to sort of underscore the point that this isn't like, gross because everybody needs money, but like well-paying jobs. It's not gig workers. They're not being flaky. Like these are well-salaried positions. People are sick. There's just so many horrible things happening. We didn't really cover this, but a couple weeks ago, the advisory board to the CDC basically all voted except for one person against mandating N95s or good respirators for an airborne virus, and all said that in hospital care work, a surgical mask, which is for droplets, not airborne viruses, but that surgical masks were sufficient, even though all of the data shows that 100% for an airborne virus, you need a respirator or better.
And this vote proved that they are corporate captured at the CDC. Science does not agree with them whatsoever.
Yeah. Goes against OSHA. It goes against NIOSH. It goes against scientists. But they're just saying it's just better, easier, cheaper, less of a scarlet letter to have the surgical masks.
Right. But this again is the bigger problem, is that this is capitalism looking for short-term economic gain at all points. And short-term economic gain for the corporatists that have put these people in place at the CDC who are going to vote their way. They're not even seeing the long run because they're looking at what's the next five years of profit for my company. The people funding them, they don't care about the long-term life of their stock value. They just care about the next 5 years.
And that's part of the reason that they're like really pushing AI. And we're not covering this today, but like there are articles now about how the investment in AI to cover the lagging workforce. Well, the reason the workforce is lagging is because you've made them all sick and you don't pay them enough. And sorry, because I saw this and it's so funny. This is why I love our pet family. I did see that with Turn during the election pushing Harris, and that was very difficult for me. And I had to take a little bit of a break from following that account. Because it does kind of make you re-examine everything when you have somebody who is, very COVID aware pushing somebody who's committing a genocide. It's like I don't know. It's hard to kind of keep the vacillation between which people you care about and whom you don't. But I think he is good on COVID. But I agree that was hard. And I am so used to sounding like an asshole all the time. But yes, thank you both. And Kimmy, me too. Like I say this to my kids every time: wear a mask. Yeah, I know. I got it. Wear a mask. Yep. On the plane, it's like, take it off. Don't breathe. Quick, put something in your mouth. But then like they'll take it off. I'm eating. Well, the air is still happening, but like it's constant. I don't know. It's really difficult. And they have made it so much more difficult for all of us.
It's hard. I can't imagine being a parent, honestly. Like you're not going to win that fight. You're just not. It's just the nature of kids. You can win it when they're around you, but they're going to sneak out at night, and sneaking out at night is taking their mask off everywhere when they're not outside the house. Because I do not see kids wearing masks unless they're employed or they look like really smart fucking kids, like who aren't following norms.
At the beginning, when everybody was taking it more seriously, my kids were especially taking it more seriously because they're athletes. And like, you want to take care of your body. And at this point, it's like, there's no end in sight. So it's not only that it's been going on for such a long time, but there's no, like, what's the path? And when you don't provide people with the plan, it's like, well, if this is just going to be our life forever, I get it.
No.
But boy, it just makes me so sad.
I get it, but it is what you were saying. It's like, there's so many levels of not having hope in the future and like being disillusioned with everything that it's kind of like live for now, kind of like, look, I understand when my parents who are on the end run here want to have get-togethers with friends. Like, I don't, and then I've trained them to be COVID conscious. They're very aware of what these things are. But like at some point I can't say don't live your last
however
so many years,
Right.
But so if you're young, you're like, my opportunities, like, what am I going to do? Nobody else is doing it. I don't hear any messaging other than from my parents,
crazy parents who already
crazy
like
parents who are
crazy because
right,
shoes off, hands washed, like all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. So there's no support. My peers, none of my peers are masking for one, which is all it takes for most young people to do something. But like,
totally. Yeah. This I thought was really interesting because, at the beginning of COVID, we heard a lot about how air on planes was well filtered and clean. And it was just like before you take off and when you land. So I would see people, I always wear my mask, but I would see people, wear the mask coming onto the plane and then take it off for the duration of the flight and then put it back on as we were landing, because that was when the air wasn't being circulated as much. That was the philosophy then. Then I would see a lot of, epidemiologists and COVID conscious people on planes in flight with their aeronets monitoring the levels, right? And it was always really high and disgusting. And we've all been on planes before anyway. This study that just came out, found that COVID risk was flight duration dependent, 25 times on long versus short flights. Inconsistent, which means that it actually, the being on the flight in the air is bad air for you, right? If your risk goes up, if the flight is longer, what that means is that the air during the flight isn't clean the way they told us it was. If it's 25 times more on a long flight versus a short flight. So they say each hourly increase in flight duration increased the incident rate by 1.5 times, 1.53 fold. So the air on a plane while it's flying is not being cleaned the way they told us it was being cleaned.
And these things they're really huge because like, if you just changed, look, we should be tracking transmission, but we're so far past like this area has an outbreak, that area has an outbreak. But now we're at like, okay, if there's a massive outbreak over in California and everyone from California is flying somewhere else, and it's just spreading like crazy when we know public transit, especially in airplanes and buses and things like that, can stop major transmission zones from transmitting to other major transmission, this is common sense. Like, just.
And it's also why mandates are important. Mandates are important because it takes away your excuse not to.
Yeah.
Like hospitals. And also, I don't know, I haven't been in a doctor's office or a healthcare facility, but in California, I thought November 1st, like the magic date. But anyway, they were going to start mandating it again. Do you know? Have you been in a?
I don't think November 1st happened at my dad's situation because he just had heart surgery or something.
Thing. Yeah. And they weren't wearing masks.
Nobody was masking. And that was a little over a month ago. So maybe it might have been November 1st. I don't know, but
But that's so crazy. Anyway, they know it's a problem, but they're going to wait till, like, if you know it's a problem, like, let's start right now. We're not going to wait until November 1st.
Like, how do you wait as a hospital if the mandate is to protect people? Like,
yeah. And the other thing, and I know a lot of people, but like the risk is higher within 2 rows of the infected passenger, of course, because it's airborne, and but also if the mask was removed for short periods of time, your risk is higher, because just because you want to eat or drink doesn't mean that an airborne virus is no longer circulating. This is a really short clip, but it just shows how germs spread on a plane. Everywhere. They just keep going.
you know what? That almost looked like me peeing in my bathroom. It's like, I know.
Remember that? Yeah,
this is why the peeing sitting down discussion.
Yeah,
that needs to be a whole episode.
Down. We got to do that one again. That was fun. That was 4 years ago. We got to bring that one back. Anyway, COVID is still around, and this, we got bird flu coming up. In the UK, they just bought 5 million bird flu vaccines, which is both, informative, like they're sort of taking it seriously, but they have 68 million people there. So what's happening? Yeah, there's 63 million.
And what are we doing? Biden is actively covering up that we have extreme exposure right now, and that bird flu is hopping.
Wastewater of all of California.
It is hopping from animal to human. I mean, it's just happening. It's going to happen. We don't know how bad it gets, but we know how bad it can get. We're in a pandemic right now, but we're all pretending we aren't. But you want that to affect us all again? And if there's something serious with it again, and look, bird flu could be at its worst, it's like 50% death rate, right? The worst variant of bird flu. And so if something like that happens, and we're all primed to just ignore protections,
masks don't work,
and we're primed to our government delaying information to us and covering things up, that's really fucking awful for our survival rate as a species. Like,
and we've got Trump coming in, which, I don't know if that is good or bad, in that will half the country wake up and fight against him, or are they just all because of Biden? Like, doesn't matter. I mean, I'm really curious, is the death ticker coming back? Are people masking again, or did Biden just kill it all and it's the Brownstone Institute has taken over public health, which feels like pretty much where we are.
I really think if something hits us again, like if bird flu blows up as it is on trajectory to right now, our only hope is that actually Trump has some responsibility and owns that this is a risk, because the Democrats, if it's only on the Democratic side, no one's going to believe them,
right?
Not enough of the country is going to believe them on this thing.
What a fucked up gamble we all have to take at this point. It's not even a gamble because we didn't do this willingly, but this is not the way a civilized society should be run. It's disgusting. It is just disgusting. And they all should become CEOs of healthcare insurance companies.
Yeah. Should we show the FAFO clip again?
Yeah, exactly. I might have deleted it already. But
reminder.
Sorry.
Some
yeah,
people
exactly.
Finding out.
Hilarious. This is from, I'm not going to be able to see it, but it was just this week in Toronto. This is the message that they sent. Wait, sorry, I have to look. It was the 25th or 26th of November. We know all too well how magical it was having Taylor Swift and her fans here in Toronto. If you're feeling delicate from the concert, soon you'll get better. Stay home if you're sick and consider wearing a mask. So they full on know that her concerts, which bring hundreds of millions of dollars to every city she goes to, are super spreaders. And they're just don't feel a little delicate.
That's so insulting. That's so like, I don't know how many people see that message from them, but it goes to media outlets, and then, that's the whole point. But if you just change delicate to COVID, And if you get treatment, you might feel better. And what if they put, hey, 1 in 10 people aren't going to feel better ever from this?
Mm-hmm.
How would that change public reaction to this event? And how would public behavior change? You know, like if there was any honesty in this stuff, it would really affect things. And imagine being her with such power and ignoring that power to educate all these Swifties that are, you know, that didn't vote Democrat, by the way, after all the day, but like, you know, she has a tremendous power to change things and is not using it. Like, it's just have your concerts and put on masks and like, and say, look, we started masking at our concerts and sickness is down 50% and we should be doing this everywhere. Or, you know, like something a little teeny, please wear a mask to my concert. A lot of our delicate people can't get sick.
Yeah.
You know,
don't
or
want
whatever.
diabetes or cancer
bullshit,
or stroke
like,
or brain damage or something, but they can't do it because capitalism, they're going to lose their contracts. People will get mad at them. And so the people we rely on are people like Taylor Swift, people who, you know, if she told all of her management and the, venue owners to purify the air and everybody had to do masks and all that kind of stuff, they would throw a fit, but she would still bring in money and she could take a stand. And instead, we were supposed to think that she was so, had so much courage for saying that she had to speak out against Trump. Like the easiest fucking low bar below the basement that a person could do, low hanging fruit, does not take any courage, but speak out for the
affected
health of
her
your fans.
economically 0.0.
Yeah.
I guarantee it, because she benefited from as much as she got hurt by it.
Exactly.
She's already selling her concerts out for maximum price. So like, she's a sack of shit.
She really is. And you look at Stevie Nicks, who wears a mask all the time and publicly talks about it, saying she doesn't want to hurt her voice. And she not only has to survive on her concerts and making money, but she has a whole crew of people, hundreds of people who also rely on her. We know that on every set, they take precautions because as soon as
they all hide these precautions.
It's gross. They're all trying not to get COVID while pretending that it's over. It's disgusting.
All right. Before I forget, kudos to Morgan Fairchild, who blast from the past, but there are so few people in Hollywood speaking up, and she's got long COVID, right?
I think she might.
But she's actively out there posting about,
she is,
masking and being
she is. Stevie Nicks is, and I don't know if you saw, and they haven't said what it is, so I don't want to be like a total conspiracy theorist, but Elton John can't see because of his horrible eye infections that he got this summer, which was definitely a symptom of the latest variant, where they were showing everybody with like the red eyes. It's dangerous.
Yeah. All right. I think we've had enough.
Was this the fun part?
Was that?
I hope we don't get another knock against us. All right. So happy to be back with all of you. Thank you all. We are going out on, I just want to make sure because some of it is not in English. I do, because I knew I was going to get to a point where I drank too much. All right. And I didn't even write about it. So I hope it all takes care of itself. This is in Puerto Rico, where our sanctions, U.S. sanctions, have been so destructive to this country. Another thing, by the way, that Biden could do is end the sanctions. He could just bring it back to where Obama did, but nope, he actually doubled down on the sanctions against Puerto Rico that Trump instilled when he took over in 2016, just to be, because he wanted to do everything opposite of Obama. And Biden came in and basically just continued the sanctions against Puerto Rico. They've had horrific shutdowns of their power grids. And So here is a group of people calling themselves the, I think, electricity insurrection, working class people coming together to solve this problem on their own. And oh my God, if it's, yeah, totally. Love you guys. Keep punching up, and we'll see you Sunday.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Tired of the failures of the electrical system and the lack of feasible solutions from the authorities, local communities in Puerto Rico are organizing themselves in search of their own energy independence. Initiatives such as the environmental organization Casa Pueblo are betting on self-management and the development of renewable energies, which they say is also the path to decolonization.
Esto es un proyecto de desarrollo local alternativo que se da en adjuntas como un referente de cambio de lo que podemos hacer, abordando el tema político de esa relación colonial con los Estados Unidos y donde hay que ejercer para autodescolonizarse. Hay que ejercer el derecho a la autodeterminación y lo estamos haciendo a nivel comunitario.
Founded in 1980 to fight against mining exploitation, Casa Pueblo advocates for public investment in wind, solar, and other renewable energies. It claims that the current electricity generation system is too expensive for the country and represents a risk for the people. And with its work, it is helping bring electricity to communities affected by constant blackouts and the inefficiency of the government.
Entonces, a partir de ahí comenzamos lo que le llamamos la insurrección energética. La insurrección energética es un movimiento desde la base comunitaria para transformar el paisaje energético de nuestro pueblo, enfrentando esa resistencia que existe de arriba hacia abajo del gobierno que tiene el poder económico, el poder militar, el poder político.
For Casa Pueblo, the decision of the government of Puerto Rico to privatize electricity in 2023 has only aggravated the situation. The solution, they say, is to create their own model oriented to the benefit of the people and not for particular interests.
Pero donde hay un consenso, que me parece a mí que es nacional, de izquierda a derecha, es que Puerto Rico debe construir un modelo de producir energía propia con recursos propios y que la gente haga un disfrute mayor de su actividad productiva en lugar de estar trabajando para pagarle el petróleo, el gas y el carbón a otros.
Since Hurricane Maria stormed the island in 2017, Casa Pueblo has created more than 400 local projects that provide electricity to hundreds of homes, businesses, and critical infrastructure. A way to boost the economy and local development without depending on the government. An example of how much people can achieve when they organize.
Y la democracia radical radica en la participación y en la acción y no esperando que alguien venga a decir que nos representa y que va a resolver los problemas de Puerto Rico, a crear falsas expectativas de cambio cuando no tienen las herramientas ni el poder para cambiar este país.